What's up, y'all? Gerald here, creator of Gospel Chops and your host for this YouTube channel, back with another video. Now, how many of y'all have heard of The Breakfast Club? This show used to be one of the most influential radio shows in the Black community. We had Charlamagne, we had Angela Yee, we had DJ Envy, who used to get on this show every morning and spew out democratic talking points to influence the community. But boy, have things changed. Angela Yee is gone. Envy is facing possible years in prison for fraud. And here we go with Charlamagne, who continually allows people to come on the show and smack him in the face on his own platform. Who have we had? We had Uncle Larry Elder, who came on the show and told Charlamagne about his own nigga wake-up call. He did a judo reverse on Charlamagne when he tried to play Larry Elder in those terms, and Larry Elder threw it back at him and told him about how you let Joe Biden come on your platform and say, if you don't know who you want to vote for, if you aren't voting for me, you ain't black. Yeah, the infamous nigga wake-up call, according to Charlamagne. Larry Elder schooled him on that. We also had Piers Morgan, who came on the platform, ran circles around Charlamagne on his own set as he sat in his corny king-like chair. And now in this clip that I'm sharing with y'all today, we have Vivek Ramaswamy, the sharp-tongued Indian, conservative, who has now dropped out of the presidential race and joined the Trump campaign. Vivek came on The Breakfast Club and ran circles around Charlamagne with regard to American history. I'll play this clip for y'all and let you see it, and I'll give some analysis on the back end. Let's go.
Now, don't be the person who was the slaveholder back then. Be John Adams. That's what we should call ourselves to be. The person who bucks the trend of their time to say, I'm going to speak on my own conviction and do what's different than being the product of my own time. Because anybody can parrot what the slogan is of their day. But the hard thing to do is to say the pack is running this way and I'm going this way instead anyway because it's grounded on my conviction.
People like John
That's
Adams,
what we need.
People like John Adams are the reason you can point at it and say it was wrong, though, because John Adams knew it was wrong.
Well, a lot of people are going to be doing things today that are different than the way that each of us is going to be living our lives and say the same thing in 250 years from now. Somebody else is going to be having the same conversation.
Thought it was wrong, clearly.
Abe Lincoln wasn't around then, man. That was still
later on.
That was still later on. And we'll just take the story down. We'll just pass this lineage down. We don't talk American history enough. Actually, it irritates me. A lot of conservatives talk about the importance of knowing history without actually just talking about history. Let's talk this through. So John Adams, you know who his son is? John Quincy Adams. He's the first non-founding father who became a president. Here's a funny fact about him. He was the first, so outside of the founding fathers, he was the first one who was elected president. He actually wasn't a great president. He was elected out after one term. People didn't love him. And so he tried to find everything else he could do. He went and tried to write some books, and he went and tried to start some nonprofits, and none of that spoke to him. He's the only president, John Adams' son, who went back to Congress after being a president. So he's elected to multiple terms of Congress. And you know what he went back to Congress with? Was one thing he regretted not doing as a president, was abolishing slavery. This is long before Abraham Lincoln comes along, okay? So he wanted to abolish slavery. His father was an abolitionist. He didn't accomplish much during his tenure as president. He was a good Secretary of State, but he was not a very good president. Think about the humility to say, I'm not even going to go to the Senate. I'm going to go become a congressman and get reelected multiple times with the mission of abolishing slavery. Now, here's what happens. There was a rule that Congress passes. It's called the gag rule, which stopped people from using the word slavery. Like they literally couldn't use the word slavery because they didn't want people to utter the word because it made them uncomfortable. So this guy's already been the U.S. president. Okay, so he has nothing to lose. He's just a congressman now. He says, I'm going to say the word. I'm going to say it, slavery. Slavery, slavery, slavery. There, Congress has set the rule that you can't say the word slavery. Well, I'm going to say it. So they censure him and have, just like they have today for George Santos or whatever, they'll have the equivalent of kicking him out of Congress. Mm-hmm. So they have his trial in Congress. And he uses his own personal trial, because this guy's got nothing to lose. They use his own personal trial for saying the word slavery when you're not allowed to say the word slavery to make the case for abolition from the stand of his own trial to being kicked out of Congress. At the end of that, they get rid of the gag rule. So you're allowed to say slavery, which opens up the debates that you're then allowed to have. So a year later, about a year or so later, he's given a speech on the Congress floor. I mean, it's amazing. This guy with this humility. He's given a speech on the Congress floor. He has a stroke in the middle of his speech. He dies right there. He doesn't die quite yet. They take him up to the upstairs room, keep him alive for another couple days. And eventually he dies up in that anteroom outside in the same Congress where he then devoted that later stage of his career. And they took volunteers for who's going to be the person who carries out his funeral rites and carries him out. And the guy who raises his hand and does it was a first-term congressman nobody had heard of, hadn't said a word, by the name of Abraham Lincoln. And so these are the stories of our history, man. We don't tell these stories anymore. And we celebrate. We put back our founding fathers, and we talk about how these people are slave owners, and we're going to dismiss the ideals they set into motion, without recognizing that, like us today, these are imperfect human beings that still strived and to be the best that they possibly could have, just as we do today. And so it bothers me deeply for us to just lazily reject that, as opposed to saying we acknowledge those imperfections, but we're founded on the pursuit of a more perfect union.
Absolutely, but the reason
the pursuit of liberty, equality, and justice for all. The reason
you can't just dismiss it and say, okay,
I'm not dismissing it, though. Do I sound like I'm dismissing it, Charlamagne?
Yes, but the reason
I disagree with you, man. And I
the
think
reason
that
you can't say
if you're going to put me in the
Jefferson,
category of the conversation we had and saying that I just dismissed it out of hand, I think that's unfair. I just think that's unfair. I don't think I dismiss it, but I acknowledge the totality of what a human being is, which is an imperfect and flawed human being who we can still celebrate.
I'm fine with that. But you can't.
That's what we have to be.
But you can't tell people just to ignore the fact that Thomas Jefferson.
I'm not telling people to ignore it, though. Okay. And this is what I think I'm in this to unite the country. Mm-hmm. And I think if we're going to take this seriously, every one of us has to acknowledge the full nuances of our history in every direction. To say that we're not going to listen to Thomas Jefferson or that our founding was illegitimate because they were deeply imperfect and flawed is every bit as bad as somebody who's going to say that I'm going to entirely dismiss the fact that they were slave owners. I think that both of those are mistakes that could lead to the failure of our country as we know it. I think our country will cease to exist if either side of our debate is, on one hand, willing to say, oh, slavery was some made-up myth, and actually, I don't know, it was in the interest of, people could say such things, it was the interest of black people to be slaves, whatever.
Ridiculous.
Okay. Well, I think that if we have a different side that says our founding fathers who wrote a Declaration of Independence founded on the pursuit of a more perfect union, right? The pursuit of liberty, equality, and justice for all. Not claiming we're perfect, but that we're a nation founded on freedom for all who aspire to have it, and that we're imperfect. But we eventually got there 250 years into as darn close as we've ever been. To reject that and say that we can't celebrate that founding because they made a mistake of being slave owners. I think that is every bit as bad for the future of our country versus acknowledging that we are still pursuing that more perfect union.
What I would say is what you talked about with Thomas Jefferson when he took the razor and he took out some of the philosophies that he agreed with. We should take some of those things that we agree with, but then everybody should come to the table because all was not at the table when those people wrote those documents.
We got that.
We have too much of a diverse country now.
We understand that.
Okay.
But my point is not rejecting that or taking a hammer to it. It's more of a different response. It's like, we got it. Like, like at a certain point, we've got to say, we've got it.
We don't, though.
No, but
we can, but we don't.
We got it, and now it's time for 360-degree mercy, clemency, forgiveness across the board, and that we're moving forward as one nation under God. And I think that moment is now, actually.
Y'all, if there's one takeaway that I want you to get from this video, it's that we all need to be educated. Black, white, red, yellow, everyone needs to be educated on American history because we are all part of this American process, this American experiment. We're all part of it. But I need you to understand the role that Black folks have played in America from its inception. Y'all, we've been here. And it always amazes me that we have people who come into the conversation whose ancestors have only been here for 10, 20 years, like a Charlie Kirk who gets online with his racist opinions. Your name is Charlie Kirkowiecki. and you chopped that joint off and said Charlie Kirk, put on a cloak of Americanism and spew racism at black folks, and you make money off of it. What's your real name? Charlie Kirkiovinskovich? You deleted a few consonants from that name, didn't you? We understand what goes on here, but my ancestors and the ancestors of people like me have been here since the inception of this country. And in a way, that's what Vivek is acknowledging in his historical analysis. We've been here. We helped to build this country. Our ancestors, our lineage goes back hundreds of years. And that's why you find in modern times on social media, you'll see the FBA clan over this way, the ADOS clan over this way. And I don't subscribe to either of them, but I understand their position. I understand what they're saying. We've been here since the beginning, the descendants of American slaves. Well, it's a distinction from Africans and Caribbeans who came here in the last couple years and take advantage of things that our ancestors fought for in this country. There's a difference. There's a distinction. And I need you to note it. I think Vivek gets it because he has a clear understanding of history. But what he's saying is similar to what I say when I counsel young black boys. Understand history, learn history, acknowledge history, but don't let history stop you from being successful in 2024. Yeah, slavery is not the reason you got 3 kids by 3 baby mamas. Yeah, slavery is not the reason that you out here as a jack boy stealing cars. Slavery is not the reason that you are a felon in possession of a firearm in 2024. Now, you can't blame slavery for your foolishness of today. It's good to acknowledge history, but understand that slavery hasn't stopped many an African-American man and woman from being successful in this country. It's a choice. Certain decisions you got to make in your life to be successful. Success. You see that back there? If you want to be successful, you can be in this country. And there are many a black man much smarter than I in history who have gone around the world looking for situations better than America, only to find that this is the best opportunity for a black man to be successful in all of the world. I need you to understand that. Take history into account. Learn it. Read about it. Understand slavery. I've read books that have brought tears to my eyes just describing what slaves had to go through in this country. The inhumanity that they faced on American soil. I think Charlamagne understands that. I think Vivek understands that. But they are looking at this set of facts 2 different ways. There are people in this country, y'all, that want you to wake up mad every day. I call them poverty pimps because they've set up mechanisms where they profit from your poverty mentality, where you get up every morning, every day, and you spend your day focused on the things of the past. Instead of building upon those things of the past to build a better future, you stuck back there. And you say, no, I can't do better. No, I can't be better because my people were enslaved in America. It's funny when I see some of these brothers marching down the street by the hundreds in these uniforms and chanting certain things. And I'm like, man, look at these brothers spending all that energy marching. All they gonna get is hurt feet and bunions, corns on their feet. But when I see them by the hundreds marching down the block, chanting certain things, saying we this and we that as black men in America. But I wonder if you turned them brothers over and shook them by their heels, Could you even come up with 10 grand? Look at all these brothers marching down the street with all this energy. How much child support do you owe, bruh? How many of y'all are felons? But you sitting up talking about we this and we that and slavery this and slavery that. Man, I need you to take personal responsibility, which includes learning about this history that Vivek is talking about and using the lessons of the past to inform the present and the future. Y'all, what you think about what Vivek is talking about as he walked into the Breakfast Club and slapped Charlamagne in the mouth with a good little history lesson? As Charlamagne is stuck on the Democratic plantation. Let me know in the comments what you think about this. This is some foolishness from the Breakfast Club. And I've come to the point where I believe that that's all we can expect from this platform is foolishness. Y'all like the video? Subscribe to the channel and share the video so we can get more people involved in the conversation, y'all. And like I always say, always remember and never forget, without the gospel, it's just chops. Until next time. Peace.